conditions majority bullish, 14-0 on SP futures this morning, up slightly, and still working at these all-time highs. Trend is expanded, upper end of the trend that we've been working on here. The weekly time frame also confirming that all-time highs on the expansion of the trend, as well as the price activity for S&P futures. We've seen the S&P 500 close here at 14-0 on the weekly time frame as well. Obviously, that's going to match the futures price pattern. We're seeing some softness still in the breadth, number of stocks above the 50-day moving average in the S&P 500, softening back to that 65 number, seeing some compression of trend here, and that obviously is a up and down oscillator, so you get extremes to one side or the other, and we've been hovering right around the upper end of this extreme during most of this trend. The bounce off of those lows from April, and we've been hovering in this range, but pulling back here a little bit even as markets are making new highs. Price activity making new highs. That's one of the only real softening indicators that we've been seeing right here on the ones that we analyze. Let's take a look at VIX. Seeing it have a little bit move higher the last couple of days. Still at 1582 though, relatively bearish or bullish setup for equities, or bullish continuation, or quietness. Really, all this is representing is the current level of fear in the market. There's just not a whole lot. Nobody's buying aggressively into S&P 500 put options yet, and pushing that extrinsic value or the premium in those options higher, which is what the VIX represents. So when you start to see a spike higher, you're just getting a lot of S&P 500 put buyers as protection for downside, or as speculation for downside. So as of right now, that's relatively calm and quiet, and that is part of the reason to be a little bit have a little bit elevated risk idea of what's happening in the current trend. When we get really quiet and things are pausing right here at the upper end of the trend, there's just no catalyst yet as far as the expectations of what's coming. We're still in earnings season, and markets are digesting that relatively well, but be aware of those levels currently on both on the breadth of the market, as well as the volatility or greed and fear factor in the market. VIX is sometimes referred to as that as well, meaning that when we're really fearful, things are spiking. When we're really greedy or calm or complacent, there's just not a lot of activity happening in VIX. Let's move on to Dow Jones Industrial Average. Not an all-time high yet, still pressing through this upper supply block, has yet to be able to break through that to new all-time highs on the Dow. Triple Qs on the other hand, continuing its overall move higher, 568 this morning. That retracement zone, areas to be watching for, the upper end of this demand block, as it could retrace. This entire move here becomes our momentum zone. So as we're in momentum, obviously we're continuing in momentum. Now it's dealing with retracement. What is that going to look like? What's that going to feel like? How deep could that be? Could we get another push higher before we get the retracement? Those are all kind of our questions at this point, and say, what are we dealing with right now? What are we dealing with today that we've got to be able to manage risk for? And that is upper end of the trend, expansion, probability of it continuing at this magnitude, okay, the speed that we took off, okay, is there enough catalyst in the market to bring in even more buyers, even more demand, even more bullish activity before we get a retracement, or you're going to get some selling and then buyers coming back in at some of these locations? Those are the questions that we're asking and dealing with each day. We're not necessarily saying, oh, what's Powell going to do? What's AI going to do? What's China going to do? What's Putin going to do? What are earthquakes? That is all factored into the price activity that we're analyzing, and the market as a whole is making real-time decisions on all information known and all information anticipated. So anybody that knows anything or anticipates anything, typically, if they're serious about it, they've made their bet. Okay, they've pulled the trigger. They're buying or they're selling. In this case, that's what we're focusing on versus the why of all of the supply and demand that is moving around in the marketplace. Let's jump down and take a look at IWM. We're not seeing we're seeing this 236, the underside of the 236 this weekly time frame, getting some resistance here. It's just been holding that upper range, hasn't been able to really press up, getting a little weakness here from 14 back to 13. So small small caps getting a little bit of a break here. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on that one. That one might be also, again, kind of early indication of some selling up here with the breadth starting to slow. VIX is still, again, this is a good area for institutions to be selling if they are, because they don't want to, once the selling starts, then oftentimes it becomes too late, too fast for, at least for big institutions, to unload without moving the market. USO had a move yesterday and today, continuing its little breakout pattern. We talked about that. It could move up into momentum. Let's see if that did push it higher. That has pushed oil back into the momentum zone now, 14-0. This could be an area if you're going through your scans and your screens looking for opportunities to see if there might be some oil names that are starting to come into play now if the overall market as a whole is starting to soften. Particular pockets may start to be of more interest, and or at least with oil moving higher, you're going to see some oil names starting to move as well. Gold has been one we've been talking about also in this upper momentum zone. Hasn't really had a real deep retracement, also hasn't really had a rally. It's just been kind of consolidated inside of this range. We're now got a little more softening here at 10 and 4. You can see the weekly time frame though has got some range. This large expansion needs to be worked out here eventually, and we'll see now if the supply is going to come back in and push things back a little bit deeper retracement on gold. We're also getting that rally in the dollar, which is going to correspond to the gold pattern as well. Typically not always in lockstep, but certainly you'll see that move. We're seeing silver also pull back here at 34.38. 236 is sitting at 33.32. That's that breakout location as well, pretty close to that. Could definitely see some demand in silver if you were to retrace back to that 33.71 range. 2-year treasuries 390 this morning. Up slightly, not doing a whole lot, kind of retracing back here in the last few days. Also 10-year also getting a little bit of a pullback here. Back to 435, had been as high as 450 in the last few days as well. A couple stock ideas to consider. We're seeing ABCB, nice confirmation bar, back in momentum and increased volume there as well. Pretty nice volume spike on that name. Also seeing some semiconductors come in here. You're seeing Rambus come in with big confirmation, big volume, moving back into momentum. You're also seeing some of these others down here. Let's take a look at those, see if there's anything interesting. LASR, oftentimes these same sector names, if they're bigger names, you're going to see similar type price patterns. LASR is one as well. AIP, also we've actually got a trade that we're going to place on that one today. That will do it for today's update. Everyone have a fantastic day today.